I'm a professor here at the Milken Institute School of Public Health, and my area of research interest is the role of physical activity in glucose, insulin, fat metabolism in older adults. Well, I've had an interest for a long time in global work, and so when Dr. Ramal described this project and we were talking about work capacity, I kind of invited myself to be part of the study team and help study, with regard to iron supplementation. Does it indeed improve a younger woman's capacity to work? So in a physiological sense, does her physiological reserve improve? And we have very specific and valid ways of measuring that in the field. So I thought this is perfect. Well, we all have some level of physiologic reserve, meaning the body's ability to transport oxygen to working muscles, and the muscle's ability to extract the oxygen from the blood and use it to fuel work. With anemia, as you know, there are compromises in oxygen carrying capacity. So many have no choice but to complete their daily routines, but the cost to them physiologically is far greater than if they were in a healthier state or a more robust state. So they would feel very fatigued. They would sleep much more. Their work would be slower. Probably their work output would be lower because of the lower work capacity, and there may be some social implications to that. It relates to a very poor quality of life, and we would all like to feel more energetic and more capable of carrying out our daily tasks. My main objective was to set up and help meet the data collection team and to train these wonderful young women in the measures of the Queen's College STEP test, which is how we were going to measure our physiologic work capacity, and also train them in using and downloading and interpreting the data from the Active Pal, which is a very small accelerometer that we just adhere to a person's thigh for a week. Those were my main goals, and also to help with the cognitive function testing. I'll never forget the first day in the village, and there were all these beautiful women with their white coats on, looking so professional and ready to go. And I just started crying. I got to walk around with them as they did their work, collecting data with the surveys, and then working with one of the village healthcare providers who I got very close with, to help them with first the Active Pal, because there were some barriers to women wanting to wear them. I think Dr. Ramal mentioned the concerns that came from the IRB in India about something adhering to somebody's skin. And the healthcare provider explained that there's a belief that it will allow other things to enter the body, number one. Number two, the whole act of baring the skin of the thigh. I mean, these young women, very, very hesitant, even among all women, to, raise their sari and expose their leg. It wasn't until this beautiful woman said, put it on me. And once she had hers on, and once she had blood taken, it was a signal for everyone else. And so this woman was just a wonderful example of, here, I'm doing this. He was modeling what we wanted other women to do and explaining the benefits. You know, many times we think we're going to go into another culture and that we're the knowledgeable ones and we're going to do for you. And, you know, especially my generation is very guilty of really not taking into account the cultural mores and aspects and beliefs of a given culture. And so, you know, using the influential in a community and following their rules. You know, we teach about this all the time, but here it was playing out. And it was wonderful for me to just be a bystander while everybody, you know, did their work. And I was very proud to have been part of that. You know, the Harvard step test is a 20-inch step. Most women have difficulty with the 20-inch, especially women, like I have very short legs, so that's a problem. So then we found the Queen's College step test. It's a standard test, so everybody is administered exactly the same challenge at the same speed for the same amount of time. The only variable in that is somebody's heart rate response. And that variable is used to determine who is fitter and who is not, right? The lower your heart rate response is, the fitter you are. And the less costly was that exercise. But who's going to do that in a sari? We forgot that. And so then, you know, we learned about hiking up saris. And then, you know, was the other concern that, look, stature is just smaller. We had a prototype and we tested it with the women research assistants. And they just couldn't do it. I mean, not without it being unsafe. So then we met the next day with the carpenter, who really didn't speak very much. He had very old tools, and I was just fascinated the way he measured and cut. There were no power tools. Could have watched him all day. I took a lot of photographs. You know, first he made it bigger, then he made it smaller. So then we tested that on everyone to make sure it was challenging enough that, you know, people would use at least 70% of their maximal capacity to complete the test, but not so high or strenuous that they would hurt themselves. And then also accounting for the sari and the smaller stature. None of these women spoke English. Dr. Ramal kind of spoke some of their language. And so then we relied on the, you know, the guys that ran the project over there. And I love these guys, right? They're wonderful human beings. But something about their presence, the women just automatically demurred. I saw like a real hesitation to take risks or to answer a question wrong or to voice their opinion, right? And so, you know, we asked a lot of questions. Do you think this will work? And, you know, sometimes a woman would start to speak and be cut off by one of the men. And I was getting really frustrated and a little bit angry. And I finally said, you know, these are intelligent women, and they do have a background in nursing. They weren't really highly educated, but they certainly had an education and were very bright and willing to learn. And that's when I asked Rajiv to throw them out and let's just, you know, all girl team and do it. And Rajiv can stay because he can help to translate. And that was his only job. I think it was almost a relief. They could be themselves. We could laugh about like a messing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. It's not going to be marked against you. I think there was a real performance anxiety, whereas learning should be all about messing up and here's how you correct it and move on. Because things don't always work out. And if you're in a fearful state, it's hard to be creative and, you know, think of solutions. So I learned a lot, and it was very rewarding for me to see these women feel so accomplished. Because explaining the Harvard STEP test to someone in another language and explaining the ActivePal and how to download the data and how to interpret the data, we did it, and they did it. You know, the second day of the trip, I missed a bottom step in the hotel and really sprained my ankle very badly. It should have broken, and it didn't. I just meant I had to walk slower, really slow. And the only scary moment was there was a cyclone coming in, and we had to get back to Bhubaneswar, and so we had to take a train.
Okay.
The train was packed, and when we got out, the rail station was just floor covered with people who couldn't get back the other way because of like the cyclone. And so it was just a mass of people walking, and here I am limping, right? And lost track of where's Rajiv, where's everybody, just followed, you know, the masses down steps. I was carried like a wave down steps and outside, and you know, there they were waiting for me. There was just that moment of panic like you see in the movies about, you know, children lost forever and never found, but there they were waiting. Out there it was fine. I just had to go really slow.
And again, research meets reality, right?
Yep.
Unexpected things happen. And you just
Right,
gotta...
and I was trained, like, you know, any given study, something's going to mess up, and you carry on. You do whatever you can to get as much of the data as you planned on, and yeah, you just carry on. Eating was the best part. We'd stop at truck stops, and I'd eat everything handed to me. I had a lot of goat, which I love. And the best part is eating with your hands, and it turns it into so much more of a sensual experience. You slow down, you enjoy the feel, the warmth, everything. It was remarkable, and that was my favorite part about eating. I didn't like that the women served all the men first and then ate. I didn't like that, but I had to keep reminding myself I'm a guest here.
So did you also wait for all the men to eat?
No, they would serve me.
Okay.
And then I, of course, Catholic, start feeling guilty because I'm eating and they're still serving. My first instinct is to help them. Oh, let me help you. Oh, no. Or wait for them.
Right.
But then your food is cold and everybody's telling me start eating. So I had to work through that. Oh, just, yeah, the trips every day, 2.5 hours out and 2.5 hours back. And we'd stop at truck stops either for dinner or definitely for chai on there. And that, to me, was, because every place was different. Some had pepper in it, some had, like,
spices,
you know, something else. And and we'd laugh, and just the chit-chat and meeting women in these villages that would invite me into their home and feed me, and it really doesn't matter where you are. in the world.
Mhm.
Women kind of have this secret language with our eyes.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and that I really connected with many, many women there. Just, we didn't speak the same language, it's like I tower over some of them, yet we
That's
just
wonderful.
knew.
Yeah.
What's the term? We just knew.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no term for it.
There is no.
There's no term
It is
for that.
called connection, and
Mhm.
I'm not a man. I don't know if men
Connect on
Connect.
that level.
no on that level. It
I
is
know.
truly a
I know.
visceral level that
Mhm.
that comes all the way down, and your eyes water up like ours are,
Mhm.
and that means it's real.